Oh, you got to do this one thing. Okay, here we go. So I am going to try that again. And here we go. All right. So thank you everybody so much for joining me today to talk about ways that we can look at juggling all these different projects and assignments that we have, be it school assignments, work assignments, because there always seems to be these deadlines that we're facing. And in some situations, it's worse than others. But one of the things that's a challenge is your quality of life. You know, how can we improve your quality of life so that you don't feel like you're drowning in all these different things that are going on? So, these are the things I'm going to cover today. The idea of creating deadlines, reminders, how we can kind of organize flag assignments that might be of more priority than other things. How do we allow enough time to get these assignments and these projects done effectively? And communication, which is another thing. And then also, the last part is just being human. How can we remind ourselves that nothing's going to be perfect and that we just got to roll with the punches and do the best we can? All right. So I'd love to see if I can figure out, well, I can't do it this way, but um, does anybody here can use calendars? And you can unmute yourself. Does anybody here use a paper calendar or an online calendar or something like that?
Nope, I use Outlook.
Okay. All right. And let's see here. All right. Okay. What do I feel like I'm missing some people? Oh, and you said you used a Google Calendar. So there's a couple of options. A lot of people use a traditional planner where you handwrite in the information, which I highly recommend if you use a paper calendar to use pencil, because oftentimes your responsibilities might shift or something might intercede that doesn't allow you to do an assignment on a certain day. So you have to kind of wiggle things around. But the important thing for those of you that are students, what I would suggest is that you print out all of your syllabi and go over and review, or if it's not in the syllabus, if it's in Blackboard, to go in and look for all of the deadlines for projects, for assignments, for tests, for quizzes. All of those different things should be put into a calendar of some kind, be it paper or Outlook or Google, but some kind of calendar that you have, so that at the beginning of the semester, you have a clear outlook on everything that's due. And this is especially important if you have deadlines that are very close to each other, maybe for different classes, or if you are trying to think ahead to how much time you're going to need for these particular assignments. So the other thing to consider is, like, let's say you have a major English 101 paper, or if you're working, let's say you have a major deadline for a report, that you put in at least 2 weeks to a week to 2 weeks, or even longer, a reminder of when that is due in your calendar, so that you know it's coming up and you've got to be working on it. The other thing too is to-do lists, checklists. Some people do a daily to-do list, like, this is what's due the next day. In work situations, that can often be effective because depending on what you get done in that particular day, if there's things that are still pending, you can add them to the checklist the following day. However, if you're a student, I would highly recommend doing at least a weekly to-do list or checklist for what's due the following week. And that could even be studying for blah, blah, blah test, or quiz on Thursday. So I need to study on Tuesday because I have work on Wednesday. So oftentimes, there was a previous up in the air juggling multiple responsibilities session that I did on building a weekly schedule. So if any of you need assistance with building a weekly schedule, just email me or let me know at the end of this, and I will share some of that information with you. But basically, creating a weekly schedule allows for you to see where the time is that you can fit in for work, time with family, rest, all of those different things that are very important in your weekly time. And unfortunately, a lot of times we have different events or things going on throughout the week, so it varies from week to week to week. But we have basic things that may happen. Like, for example, if you know every Tuesday, Thursday you have class from 9:30, I don't know, till 10:45, that's part of your weekly schedule. But when it comes to studying or other things, that might shift and that might be fluid from week to week to week. Does anybody have any questions so far? Okay. So, one of the things that's important about your projects and about your assignments is their level of importance. So, you would give less time for, say, an interdisciplinary one credit class. You might need less time to complete the assignments than you would for an English 101 or a statistics class. You might need different time. So when you have all of your projects in your calendar, oftentimes people might color code by importance. So if something is extremely important and you know it's looming, you might give it a red color. You might give something else a lighter color. But whatever makes sense to you, some people, when they're using the paper calendars, you might highlight something, like something might be pink or yellow or blue or green, depending on what type of highlighters you have. But it gives you a visual cue of, basically of prioritization. So one of the things that I often tell students and employees, if you have quick and easy things that can be done within half an hour, start at the beginning of the week, get those done first, and then dedicate all your time to the more heavier load assignments. If there's nothing that's easier, then just determine what's easier of what you have to do. So the other thing that's critical is making sure that you slot out time to work on those particular assignments, be it for folks that are working, be it compilation, assimilation, that kind of thing, getting that stuff done. You've got to give yourself time to do that. The other thing is, if you're a student, it's very important to set aside blocks of time for studying, for research, for writing, and for doing whatever coursework needs to be done. So oftentimes when you establish a weekly schedule, you can set out these blocks of time. Just bear in mind that you're more effective with assignments if you give yourself breaks. So some people often work for 50 minutes straight, they take a 10-minute break. Some people work 2 hours straight and they take half an hour break. But whatever is best for you to give your brain some time to just do what you need to do, but also to give yourself a chance to kind of recharge your batteries. Okay. When I was in my last program, there were times where I was literally writing for 8 hours straight, and I would never, ever recommend that for anybody. It was insane. So don't do that. Okay. So, as I was mentioning before, putting together a weekly schedule can be really helpful. The only problem we have is life gets in the way. So sometimes we might slot out 2 hours to study, but then something happens where you're not able to do that. So a lot of this is fluid. And so what I mean by that is, let's say you can't do 2 hours today. When can you do 2 hours tomorrow and what can be put off? So a lot of it is just mapping out, what, these adaptive measures. So basically figuring out what you can move around, and that'll kind of take the stress off of you of thinking, oh no, I didn't do this today. You'll get it done. The other thing is a lot of times, and this is what I hate about a full course load or a very busy job, is that for some people, like some people when they're working, they have to stop at a certain time and they just have to figure it out the next day. With my job, the way it's set up, I was working till 6:30 on Friday because I had to catch up. But that's not the expectation of a lot of people. A lot of people, 5 o'clock comes and you've got to stop. So when can you allow time for the next day? The same thing goes for students is if you are working part-time or you have children and they have to go to school or they need to be fed, that kind of thing. A lot of it is just going with the flow, just reminding yourself of the deadlines and trying to figure out what else you can do. The challenge that a lot of people run into, and this is where the quality of life situation is that sometimes you have to stay up late. I don't know if anybody can relate to this, but stay up late after the children are in bed or other things just so you can get things done. Um, that's where I think the self care piece is sacrificed in some ways when something gets in the way and you have to figure it out. The other thing is you may have an assignment due on Sunday night at midnight, and you didn't start the paper until Saturday. But then you suddenly realize you have questions and you don't understand part of the assignment. What I would suggest is anytime you have assignments due over the weekend, make sure that you review everything by Thursday or Friday morning so that you have time to email your professor any questions you might have. So that you need that safety net of time so that you're not left, wondering and grappling with what to do. So please try to plan for that type of thing because that's very important. Um, the other thing is, and this is for the students, determine if tutoring is necessary. And if it is necessary, when can you set up an appointment? Allow yourself enough time to set up an appointment where you can get the feedback and then get the paper in on time. The other thing is to consider working with fellow students to study, to do, to give each other feedback. That kind of thing can be very helpful. And the other thing is research. Make sure you allow enough time for research. If you have a major paper due and you're really not sure how much time you need, talk to your professor about it. Now, for those that are working, um, I often say if you're confused about something or you're not sure about something, check with your supervisor, but also check with your coworkers because that can be invaluable for keeping you on track with things, especially if you need clarification. Because how often do we get confusing job duties? So for communication piece and for employees, it would be your supervisor or coworkers. But make sure as a student that you keep the contact information of all your professors handy so that if you do have questions, you can email them in enough time for them to get back to you. Because I was listening to a bunch of faculty the other day and they say they often take a Saturday off or they don't check their email till Monday. And you just don't want to be in a pickle if you have questions about an assignment. The other thing is to, with your professors or with your fellow students, share your concerns and ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions because that's so critical to staying on task with what you need to complete. And as I mentioned before, reach out to peers to get clarification, support, that kind of thing, because there are times when you might have assignments that make absolutely no sense and it turns out that 5 of your classmates agree and they don't get it. So that piece is really important. The other part is, oh yeah, the last part is, oh yeah, I'm a human. So self-compassion is so important. You might miss a deadline. You might screw something up. That's okay. You're a human being. Please remember that, you're doing the best you can. Um, Make sure you have a good support system in place, be it peers, family, whomever. But things can get really stressful, especially as we get towards the end of the semester, not just for students, but for employees. And I know for James, you've got different times of stress levels. So peer support doesn't have to be in your department and it doesn't have to be in your class, but finding that support is so important. And just remember, you're doing the best you can. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing because I really want to have a dialogue with everybody. What are people thinking?
So basically, I was thinking about the planning. You know how you mentioned that try to write everything down for a week's worth
Yes,
of information. Well, my thing about that, it takes me a while to write all that down.
right, right.
So I have been doing some research to see how is that I can make it easier for myself.
Yeah.
And you want to share, there is a pen out there that I've been looking at the reviews and it has gotten somewhat good reviews. It's a little pricey though.
Oh, the scanner pen that's about 129 bucks?
Yeah, the scanner pen.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. So
So
that is definitely something to consider. Absolutely. But it's one of the things I would say is, how many people here have taken English 101?
yes.
Okay. So were you told to do an outline before you write a paper?
Yes.
So taking the time to write a to-do list might seem arduous and it might seem frustrating, but it might actually pay off because, and the other thing you can consider is, do you have a printer at home by chance? Okay. You can often print out the page of assignments for that week and just keep it handy and just check off. Like sometimes it's discussion board. Does anybody here have discussion board questions? No? Maybe? Okay, so that's another thing, but there's assignments or even just having the syllabus with the information, or printing it off of Blackboard. That might be another option, but to have a place where you're keeping stuff in one place. And for those of you that are employees, printing out the Outlook calendar for the week can sometimes help as a checklist. Like sometimes I put a lot of my to-dos, what I have to do in my calendar, and I might give it like an hour of time, to remind myself, oh, okay, I've got this report due. But printing that out, having that visual in front of you and maybe highlighting certain key things will also help to keep you visually on track. Because I don't know about you, but since I've been working remotely, sometimes I forget what freaking day it is. I'm like, what day is this? And my mother and I joke because she's like, oh, it's Saturday. I'm like, no, Ma, it's Thursday. So, it can be a little overwhelming. Um, Clelia, what else do you think that might work for you, or do you think you'd rather just do the pen?
Well, I have tried that because I've been told over time to go ahead and do that. But
Okay.
I do find that it does consume, for me, it can
Yeah,
take a bit of more time. So
right.
I would actually like to try the pen and just like have it scanned in Microsoft Word,
Yes, yes,
start making
yes,
it like Monday. And I feel it will just save me the hassle of like making
right.
sure I wrote it right correctly, because sometimes when
Yes,
you're overwhelmed and tired, you
yes,
break things and you misread information date, and that's a risk that I don't want to
yes,
take.
yes.
So
And
it
yep.
is something that I would like to try.
Yeah, absolutely. And, try that. The other thing again is if you can print out on your computer, if you can print out the assignments and kind of put them in one place, that could also help if until you get the pen. Just as an option, but instead of handwriting everything, just print out the assignments directly from Blackboard by right clicking and choosing print. and it'll print the screen, and then that way you can keep those together.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea as well.
Yeah, yeah, just to give you, just so you don't have writer's cramp in the claw, you know, from too much writing. Um, Anybody else want to share some concerns or feedback?
I actually use this app called Google Keep. It's free and it has checkbox capabilities. And you,
Nice.
on the side, you can move things around so you can kind of prioritize your tasks. So I do that every day for the day.
Good,
And I put the easier things first so I can get
good.
those done. And once you check them, they disappear, but they're still at the bottom in case you need to revisit them.
That's very
So,
nice. Thank
so
you.
it's, I found that helpful.
Good. Thank you. Now, are you able to, Alicia, are you able to kind of look at a project? Can you add a project that's long term, like let's say it's due in a month? Can you add that to your list?
Yeah, you can create different, I don't know what you would call them, like
Like,
documents almost.
yeah, yeah, like
And you can have
priority.
multiple checklists.
Nice.
So I usually do one for like a project or for a certain day, and
Okay.
then um, list all the things I need to do for that so I can check them off as I go. And if I need to
Wonderful.
visit another one, I can just exit out of that and go to that.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Does anybody else have any tips or concerns or questions?
I put sticky notes on my wall. So
Okay.
like by class. So like if I have something due for math, it's in a blue sticky note. If it's for English, it's in a red one. So I'm like,
Okay.
because I have it in my planner, but sometimes I don't check my planner, so I look up on my
Yeah.
wall, and then when I finish, I take it down.
Oh, that's wonderful. Wonderful. I'd probably stick one on my forehead. Okay. Does Susan, James, Giselle, Sandra, Kim, anybody have any feedback or ideas?
Well, I use Notes in the iPhone.
Yes.
Notes works pretty well, although I think I'm going to look into the Google Keeps just
Yeah,
because there's a lot of things going on at the same time, and
that's right.
to see which one works best.
Yeah.
But in Notes, you can make folders and do checklists and the
Yes.
whole bit.
Great. Yeah, I tend to be, I hate to say it, everybody, I tend to be on the old-fashioned side because I try to keep it all in one place in Outlook Calendar because it's usually what I'm checking periodically, because a lot of times when you have meetings or things like that, when I was in school, I would slot time to study and do the coursework, and so it would I'd set up the reminder so it would harass me, before the work day was over. It was like, okay, guess what? You got to study tonight. Yay, and write that paper. So whatever works best for you, but as long as you can make sure that you're somehow flagging or acknowledging that something is of great importance, and that way you're not missing the assignment. Any other comments or concerns?
I think I had to actually put time in my to-do list. I use Outlook as well for setting up my day. And I think there's a real importance to it. Because working remotely, you need to give your supervisors feedback about what you're working on, because that gets presented up the chain. So for me, I think I'm going to actually put in, how should I list that? Because for me, it's Pat. If Pat needs an update and wants to know what I did without being like a time study union thing, does that make sense to actually put in your checklist, do your checklist and block off a half an hour?
Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of times, like there was a reminder that I had to remind myself to record this session, so I put a reminder before the meeting, because I'm sorry, when we have 20,000 things going, it's the
Mm-hmm.
little things that kind of slip through the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
And for some people too, because we all have different learning styles, handwriting something might cause more retention of things in your brain, but for other people, it might be typing it on the computer or typing it on your phone. So it all depends on how you retain information. If you're not retaining information by using an app, or that kind of thing, then use the planner. It all depends on what you're comfortable with, what works for you, and what helps you to feel more effective. Any other feedback that you'd like to share? No?
One thing that I
Oh, I'm sorry. Go
Sorry.
ahead, Kim.
one thing that I find difficult is sometimes even if I remember to write a note somewhere or to put it in my calendar, when it pops up to remind me, I'll just like snooze it if I'm in the middle of something else. And I get in the habit of just saying, oh, that's not super important right now. And then I dismiss it or something and then don't go back, or I forget to go and check my notes if it's something that's physically written down.
Right.
So I think that's one challenge that I have is trying to overcome that urge to just like snooze something or dismiss it if it's not a top priority.
What you could do, Kim, is to dismiss it, but then immediately go into Outlook and move it. So if you think it's something that can wait, move the event to another day or time, day and time. So if you're taking 3 seconds to snooze it or to dismiss it, you can take another 3 seconds to move it. And that way you're kind of going into the habit of not totally dismissing it, but just keeping it, if you move it to the next day, for example, then okay, I still got to work on this, and I'm going to get to it. I think the challenge that a lot of people face in the work environment is you're hit with 20,000 things. You're working on something and then somebody calls, or you're working on something and somebody emails. So it's a matter of prioritizing on a daily basis with what you're hit with. So it may be a question of getting the easy stuff done first, and then do not disturb, especially when we're working from home, where, you look and the emails are piling up, let them pile up. If you're more effective answering emails at the end of the day, give yourself 20 minutes to check email, but then go back to the project that you're working on. It all depends on, what is needed by your supervisor the most, or by, with Susan, with your students, what would you say is the biggest challenge with organization with the students from a team?
I give my students checklists.
Mm-hmm.
I give them an outline and I have a calendar for them. I also give them Sunday night emails, and then we meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay.
And so it's up to them whether they want to hand in their presentation. This is for public speaking.
Yes.
If they want to if they want to do their presentation for Tuesday, they get to have Thursday off.
Right.
If they want to come to the class on Tuesday and get all the questions answered, then everybody will present on Thursday. And this is my first semester of teaching totally online. So I'm still really new at it.
Yes.
And I'm still trying to figure out exactly what's best for the students, because it's overwhelming.
Right. Well, yeah, and it's also what's best for you. I hate to say it. I hate to say it, because if you're burnt out, then how effective are you going to be for your own students?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I am a big, I do a lot of checklists. I've got everything in a calendar. I'm color coordinated, the whole bit. I color code stuff. But I'm glad that I'm hearing from some students, because it's good to know what's on their end.
Yes.
Like, how are they, looking at stuff, and how are they keeping up with stuff and perceiving things, because they just don't have my class. They have,
Oh,
4 or
yes.
5 other classes
Yeah.
that they're dealing with.
Yes.
So
the other thing, for all of the students that are here, it sounds like some of you already have some really good systems in place. For those of you that don't have good systems in place, what do you think you might change after today? What do you think you could change? Okay, come on, somebody.
So I'll go actually. I'm a grad student at UMass Lowell right now. I'm trying to get my second master's in higher education. So
Okay, you big nerd.
tell me about not looking like the best life choice right now. But,
Impressive. Very impressive.
Yes, very impressive.
yeah. Well, so I'm actually in my last class and it's a practicum, but we still meet like, once a week for 3 hours, and we still have assignments and essays. So I'm really struggling with it. So I guess two parts. Like I don't have a calendar set up. I'm aware of when assignments are due, but I think it's been a really good idea to kind of set up blocks of time to actually sit down and dedicate some time. So that's what I'm still struggling with. I have an essay due tonight that I haven't. Yeah, so I got a 3-year-old and work from home full time. It's just.
But also, you're tired. You're tired because you're working full time. You have a young child. So my friend from my last cohort, her child was, when we started, was 3, and I was like, when do you sleep? So so one of the things that I think people, this is why I think quality of life and self-care is lousy, because a lot of times you're giving up time to sleep, time to eat effectively, time to just, how you just want to sit and not think about anything and watch senseless TV and laugh and enjoy yourself. All these things are basically sacrificed. So how do you really have quality of life? And the answer is probably not really, because you are trying to figure out how to juggle everything, and time that you might dedicate without a 3-year-old is kind of out the window, because you're providing care. I think that's one of the biggest problems with some of our students that are older, that are going back to school, that have families, because, or if you're teaching and you have a family, it can be very difficult to juggle all that. So maybe you and I can talk offline, and I can give you some survival tips.
That's good.
So, this is caffeine, and this is what, I have to put it closer to the camera. I can't even, oh my God, my mug isn't even showing up. It looks like I'm holding this magic sphere. So anyways, I love these virtual backgrounds. Woo! So there's a lot to juggle. How many folks here are getting decent sleep? I'm not really impressed. Oh God. Okay. Giselle, I'm worried about you. My dental hygiene lady is.
Yeah, it's too much. Yeah.
Okay.
Like for me, I am learning English too, because I speak a little English. So when I am studying, I need to translate. I have 2 kids too. I have a husband, a home that I need to do everything. Plus the dental hygiene, that is too much work that we need to do every week. So now we have 5 classes. So it's too much. So it's, I don't know. I say, oh my God, maybe I cannot finish because it's too hard, really.
Well, you're not working though, correct?
No, I'm not.
Okay, because that would be too much. And so having children and a husband is another job too. James is giving me a thumbs up. Because honestly, there is a lot of sacrifice of time. People don't realize how, if you could look at time, it's like money, and you're losing all this money. If you were to equate it like, time is money, you're losing a lot of money because you have another full-time job, right? So basically, there's no way that I can say, this is great. It's not great. It's hard. It's incredibly difficult. But yet you're doing it. So by the end, you're going to need a big nap, and your husband better take the children and let you go to Aruba or, the Bahamas or something by yourself. So you can get some sleep. But Lilia, do you still have that? Do you have that problem as well?
Yeah, it's just like Giselle says, when you have a family, it's not only, your school, but it's also you have to take care of your spouse, the housework, the children. And now when it's online, everybody's online right now. So while you're taking an exam, your child is knocking on your door saying, Mom, I need help with this. I can't get into this. And you're at home and you're not set in the same environment as you would be in a library. So it's a little challenging, I believe, for this semester. It's very challenging, I believe, for people with family, and I'm assuming also with people that are working as well. It's not easy for we all have our problems. It's hard for, I believe, everyone. And I also believe culture also plays a role in it, just because, for example, I am Hispanic.
Yes.
And my husband is not accustomed to doing housework so much.
Yes.
And if you could hear my daughter come in the room right now asking me for help. So for him, it's difficult for him to get used to doing the housework as well.
Right.
So it's a balance that it's hard for me, at least.
Yes. And Giselle, does your husband help out in any way?
He helped me sometimes. Sometimes.
They help.
Not like the way that I need it.
Well, sometimes we can help and make it worse, so it's awesome.
I'm gonna tell you, and the men did nothing. They still sit at the table, and then we clear it. The women clear it, and we bring out dessert. So I'm trying. My son is 21, and he expects that now. I'm like, nope, you're helping. So I'm breaking. Not, I want to keep a lot of the culture, but I also want to update it. So it's weird to try to make it what I feel is more current. But my brothers did zero. But if I needed something with my car fixed, or it was very traditional in terms of helping them. But I still do all the housework here as well. So I get it. It's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. It is. My mother is disabled, and I'm working from home, but oftentimes I have to stop and help. She sometimes falls, needs help in every which way. And so I feel like we're all facing these different COVID-19 challenges working from home. And it looks like the rate of people getting it is going up again. So we might have to go back to level 2 again at some point. So that's challenging because being at home a lot and not being able to get out is also challenging for self-care because basically my television set has been my biggest form of entertainment. So other than, wild animals in the backyard. So yeah. And does
for dental hygiene, I'm sorry, I think I interrupted. I have a little bit of a lag, but dental hygiene, can you clean teeth and stuff? Like what's happening with the practicum there? Is that going, or how are you? Is it open, I guess? I don't even know what we call it at Meditech.
Yes, we are having clinic we are going 2 days to the school to have the clinic.
Oh.
Okay.
To practice, yes.
Okay.
Good.
All right. So basically you need a hazmat suit just to clean somebody's teeth. I'm serious. It's like, outbreak movie. Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions or feedback they'd like to share? Because I know you all have busy lives and I don't want to keep you.
I do.
Yes.
So I don't know how, but times just zip through.
I'm sorry, you what?
I don't know how, but time just passes by just doing nothing. For me.
Wait, I'm confused.
He said that time just passed by really fast.
Oh God,
passes
I'm sorry.
by really quickly. He's doing nothing.
Well, doing nothing can be very hypnotic. So, in other words, doing nothing can be addictive. And that means that you're not sitting in front of your computer doing what you need to do. Yeah. So one of the things that I think for you, Ayush, is more notifications, more reminders. that you need to sit down and do certain things, like certain assignments, or you need to basically set aside time for reading material, what have you, because you have to look at your schoolwork as like a job. And if you don't show up for
Okay.
your job, you're going to get fired. And fired for me is like big fat F. So,
Yeah, definitely.
so remind yourself that this is your job. You got to show up, or your boss, like certain professors are here with us. Your boss will give you the hairy eyeball and be very grumpy, and you won't succeed in that class. So you have to kind of change the mentality of, of what it is you need to accomplish, because at the end of the day, do you want to transfer to another college after Middlesex? Okay. So let's say your big dream is to go to UMass Lowell.
Okay.
Well, UMass Lowell is competitive. Got to get good grades. So that's one of the things that you've got to think about, is that long-term goal of where you want to end up. And then after that, do you know what job you want to do?
What job?
What career?
Computer related.
Okay. So name a company that you might want to work for.
AMD.
Okay. So this company is top notch, highly competitive. Let's say they ask for what skills you have. What have you done? What about an internship? A paid internship over the summer, that kind of thing. So that's another thing to consider when you're juggling all of these different things, is what's the long-term goal? Can anybody share with me, like Zoe, Alicia, do you have a long-term goal?
Yeah, I want to start my own educational nonprofit. Last year I was a member of AmeriCorps, so I did City Year in Boston.
Wonderful.
And so I
Did
kind
you
of
go
want
to Did you go to Northeastern to do that?
No, actually, I just did it. The applications are just kind of free through, like you
Yeah.
just kind of apply through whatever
Yeah.
means you apply through. I'm actually wearing my City Year jacket right now. It's kind
Nice.
of funny.
Okay.
But yeah, I did AmeriCorps last year, and so it kind of struck my love to teach and work with
Yes.
children, and so I just
Yes.
kind of had to get I keep saying I just kind of just get the degree and the education out of the way,
Yes.
so I can
Yes.
actually do what I want to do, which is work
Yes.
with students and work with kids and be in the classroom.
Yes.
In more urban environments, and so
Right.
that's kind of my goal. One of the things I was going to say though about the time, just like the board time or like the things that just pass time where it goes really quickly, is to be realistic about when you're planning to study or when you're planning to get your work done. Because like I know I originally created the schedule that was beautiful, where I was like, I have 3 classes in a row, and after my classes I'm going to do my homework, and then it just wasn't happening because I was like, I'm sitting here on the computer all day, and then I have to sit here on the computer for another hour and a half and do my homework. And so I was like, all right, let me be realistic about the time I can get my homework done and the times of the day that I actually can do, or the days I can do it when I'm not working or when I'm not in class. So I think that like my mom brought that up. She was like, it's unrealistic for you to think that like you have class from 8 a.m. until 1 p.m. and then you're going to sit from 1 p.m. until 5 p.m. to get your homework done. It's just not going to happen. So like just be realistic about the time and when you can do it.
Absolutely. And that's where the breaks come in, because I don't care what anybody says, being in a classroom and learning is exercising the brain. So if you were to run a 5K, you're not going to stop after the 5K and have, a bowl of spaghetti and go, okay, I'm going to run another 5K. It's not realistic. So when you're using your brain like that, you need breaks. You need breaks. And for all the employees that are around here, working from home, when we first started switching to completely working from home, we weren't taking any breaks. And it was just like boom, boom, boom. And you're sitting for hours on end and wondering why we were exhausted. And it's like, well, gee whiz, because you're not taking a break. And so I can't emphasize enough, especially for those of you with children, you might have your door closed, you might be working, on an assignment, but while the door is closed, give yourself 10 minutes to just close your eyes and take a break, because you need it. You need that time. And if any of you are interested, I offer a well-being series every other week throughout the semester. It's information on different ways that you can take care of yourself. This week is Tai Chi. In a couple of weeks, it's going to be a body scan meditation, learning about acupuncture, you name it, you're all welcome to come. During this time, we need to figure out ways to kind of just give ourselves a break. Okay. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to share? Okay. Well, I just wanted to thank everybody for coming today. I hope some of the tips helped you, but it sounds like a lot of you have some really good plans in place. But if you have questions or you have further feedback, let me just put my handy dandy chat here. And that is my email. If you ever want to just chat with me, feel free. We can also video conference and just talk. But just know I'm here to support you in any way I can. And I just want to thank my colleagues for coming today. It was so good to see you, and I'm so glad you're hanging in there through all of this craziness. And if you want to chat further, feel free. We'll chat it up. You need a break. I need a break. So thank you all for coming today, and I just want to wish you all the best. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much. You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.